Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember McClellan is absent. All other council members are present.
Would you all then stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence afterwards? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, the city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the March 26th, 2019 meeting and the agenda of the April 9th, 2019 meeting in accordance with state law, council, and housing authority policy. We have no presentations today, and that brings us to agenda changes. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
Mr. Mayor, we have no changes to the agenda.
Council, do you have any agenda changes? No? That brings us then to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? No. Okay. Staff, do you wish to pull any? Oh. Which one? All right, Mr. Goble wants to pull number 9. Staff, do you wish to pull any consent items?
No, sir.
Angela, do you have any speaker cards for the consent items?
No cards, sir.
Let's go ahead and look at number 9 then. Steve, I'll leave it with you.
This is a large item, and I think there are some nice nuggets of benefit to the people of El Cajon in here. So I'm going to ask the city manager to explain a couple of things. We've set aside about $9 million in reserves, as I understand, to pay for what might have been charges from the city of San Diego going back many years, perhaps 9 years or so. And you were able to get that down to $5.1 million, and even that the city of San Diego wanted $5.1 million from us for past capital expenditures, and you were able to get the 5.1 down to 3.6. Can you tell me a little bit more about those savings?
Thank you, Mr. Goble. There's a lot going on with this agenda item, as you can see. Partly is an ongoing agreement that we have to treat our wastewater. As you recall, the city of San Diego through Metro treats our wastewater. So part of this action tonight is reviewing that. But the bigger part, the one that you brought up, has to do with an outstanding obligation that the city has had for about 15 years. And frankly, for the last 15 years, our staff and the city of San Diego staff have not been able to resolve what that exact amount is for some capital improvement projects that the city of San Diego took on that they felt we had some obligation for. Because we weren't sure what that dollar amount would eventually land on, we have reserved $9.8 million for the last few years in our, sort of as a set aside in our fund to accommodate that liability when that day would come. Our staff, public works staff, did a great job in working with the city of San Diego and coming to an agreement on what that dollar amount should be. And if you combine sort of items number 2 and 3, or actually 3 and 4 of the agenda, it comes out to about $4.5 million. And that is some outstanding liability that we've been carrying for years and years. But we're able to resolve that for that 4.5, which is allowing the city now to put about $4.3 million back into your wastewater enterprise fund, which will help offset future increases in the rates.
That's great.
So not only do we get to keep $4 million to offset future rate increases, but you negotiated $5.1 million down to $3.6 million. That was a good $1.5 million savings for the people of El Cajon. And the $891,000 in operations, we shouldn't be alarmed about that because that actually covers 2012 through 2018. That's not a one-year figure. So that's a lump sum that we're done with. Right. So great work by staff in negotiating, in reserving, and in making money available to help offset future rate increases. That's a good win for the people.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. So since no other items were pulled, I'd like to make a motion then to approve the consent items. Moved and seconded, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right, that brings us to public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items that are not on the agenda. However, council members and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any cards under public comment?
Yes, sir. We have 3 speakers. The first one is Charles Hoffman.
Hello, sir. Welcome today.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me speak.
Would you mind pulling the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you? Thanks.
My problem is parking. I live on Berrydale Street, which is Berrydale. There's 3 streets that come together: Berrydale, Burnett, and Adele. It's just a little U. It's right off of Bradley, right near the corner of Bradley and Mollison. Up the street, we have, besides having a multitude of mobile home parks on Bradley, we have a multitude of large apartment complexes that do not, the people that live there come on our street, park there, leave their car there for days in some cases. I had a car for 9 days in front of my house. I didn't want to be a dud and call the police, but it's ridiculous. And this is all created by the city of El Cajon in the way they set these up. The amount of people that can live in these things, the parking problems in these apartments, and that's wrong. It's the city of El Cajon's responsibility to get this parking situated. We have just had somebody from the city driving around, compliance officer, I believe is who he is. But he came around onto our street, and what we have been doing in our neighborhood on all 3 streets is leaving our trash cans out off the curb in the street to save the parking places for the people that live there. Because if not, you're in trouble. I have a nurse that lives 2 houses down from me. She gets off work at 4 o'clock in the morning. She comes home, can't park in front of her house, has to find somewhere else to park, and then wander through these neighborhoods in the middle of the night. They leave alcoholic bottles, trash, needles, used condoms. They're all dumped in front of the homes. The people are urinating in our front yards. Strangers are coming and going at all hours. My wife pulls up at night and calls me before she gets out of the car, and I come out of the house and make sure there's nobody else wandering around the neighborhood doing we don't know what. We are trying to protect our neighborhood and keep it safe and clean. The alternative is a park. Since the city does not police these areas, does not ticket these cars ever, along Bradley, along our street, and the other 2 streets, nobody comes around, marks the tires, tickets these people. If the compliance officer would simply do that, he could make enough money to pay his own salary and probably 2 or 3 other people. That's how much money they could make off this parking and dumping trash around and everything else. Our alternative is a permitted parking, which we'd like to do. We were here, the last time we were here was at the State of the City address, and we talked to Taylor, is that his name, the compliance officer? Okay. He told us at the time that he would check it out and get back to us. Well, he never did.
Yeah.
He leaves messages, or he mailed everybody a letter saying you had to get your trash cans up no sooner than, had to put them on there no sooner than Tuesday night, had to be back up Thursday morning.
Excuse me for a second, sir. Did we have a timer on this today? I didn't notice it. It's over? So I'm sorry, sir, I have to stop you for a second because we've run out of time, but let me just ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
These apartment complexes, are those relatively new? I don't remember the complexes. Have they been there a while, or are they new?
Have I been here a while?
No, the apartments that are causing you trouble.
The trailer parks have all been there since I've been there. Most of the large apartment complexes have not. I moved in that house in 1971.
When did the apartment complexes come?
When?
Yeah, what year?
Over the years, there's 2 or 3 up on Sam's Hill off of Bradley, and there's more on our side of the street. They've been there for years.
And how long have you feel like the problem's been?
The problem is not that old. It's pretty recent, and I don't know what's going on in the apartment complexes. Why I've heard from people that they don't want to pay for parking in the complexes, or there's too many people living in one apartment that all have cars.
That could be a problem.
People drive up, they let off 2 or 3 people, they all get in their car and drive off. And then they reverse it. When they come back, they all get out, park their cars, and get in one car and leave.
Do your houses have garages for your cars?
Yes.
Are people using their garages?
Pardon me?
Are they using their garages for car parking, or?
Most of them park on the street to save the parking places. They can't park in their garage in a lot of cases. A lot of the houses in our neighborhood have been, the garages have all been converted.
All right, let me ask a couple. I'll pass on to the rest of the council. I just want to ask staff a question first. Graham, are you familiar with this issue? Have you got a report from the person you sent, Mr. Taylor?
We are. In fact, when this got brought up earlier, or actually late last year, we went out and investigated, and we do recognize that there's a challenge. The big challenge that we have as staff is that this neighborhood is almost an island of the city. So to the north, to the west, and to the south of this area is surrounded by a county of San Diego. So we have no ability to regulate those apartment complexes. We have no ability to regulate parking except on our city streets. One of the resident's exactly right. In my experience, a lot of these parking issues has to do with overcrowding of apartment units, or the apartment complex with rent gives you one parking spot, but then you can pay for a second spot. So if there's 2 or 3 cars, they're going to park somewhere else. What we're recommending right now is probably a do-nothing approach, because Bradley is being worked on, and as part of the widening project, staff actually has insisted that the county, as part of that project, include public parking on Bradley. So once that project's done, we think that will open up some parking on Bradley, which there isn't right now. That will help, we think. And the other thing I should note is code enforcement doesn't proactively look for violations. We were called out. Someone made a complaint about trash cans, so we're just responding to another neighbor in that neighborhood.
Do you think there may be value in us meeting with the managers of the apartment complex and trying to find a compromise?
There could be.
Why don't we try to do that?
Okay.
In the meantime, so.
And also, if your compliance officer would return phone calls, he left it wrote right on the letter, just call me, leave a message, and I'll get back to you. The man has never called anybody back that I have talked to in my neighborhood. The last time we called was this morning. My wife called. Still haven't heard from him.
I'll see if we can get somebody to call you back. Council, do you have any questions? Well, sir, let's work on it.
We'd appreciate it.
I'll work on it with you. It sounds to me, I don't know if you noticed what the city manager said. There's a big construction project happening on Bradley right now.
Sure.
And we're hoping that remedies some of it. But in the meantime, I'm glad to go out and meet with the apartment managers and see if we can find some kind of way to give you some peace and quiet.
It also would be appreciated if they would get someone to clean up. They tore the 4 houses down that were on the corner, 6 actually. Mm-hmm. And somebody came in and cut a few weeds down, left the trash in the yard and everything else. I don't remember the gentleman's name that works for the county, but he said he would take care of it. But
can we contact the county about maintaining that property, please? Thank you. All right. We'll work together. Leave your number with our city clerk, and I'll see what I can do, and I'll give you a call.
Okay.
I'd be glad to meet with you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being patient with us. All right.
Dolores Landers.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome. You're definitely going to pull that down. That's-
Mayor Wells, Councilman Kendrick. I have been to the council meetings 3 times regarding the property. In George Bush's administration, I heard the phrase shock and awe. April 4th, I have sent letters, hand-carried them to everybody, the elected officials. On April 4th, when my husband went to get the newspaper, a car was parked in front of our home. I have 2 folders for the elected councilman and for you, Mayor Wells, with pictures of the car. I called the city. I took pictures. And then the car drove down to 133 Helix View Drive that I have been complaining about for 3 years. And what I discovered was 133 Helix View Drive was a square lot, but it became a corner lot when US 80 changed in 1973 to I-8. Parcels were taken out because they were going to do a freeway at where Midway Drive was. The bottom line was that car is now being fixed as I speak in front of 1333 Helix View Drive. When I say shock and awe, somebody told me that the city of El Cajon owns a portion of that lot. The cars are being fixed. They are being taken there during the night, and they're cars that are either impounded or they're cars that they bought from auction. I want to know if that's true, because I need to know who I have to get in touch with. Is it the city who owns that portion where all the cars are on? Or is it the homeowner? We had a murder in El Cajon on Pine Drive. I was also, and as I say, it might be a rumor, that the son of the owner of the house was recently killed by a gang member. Are we safe up there? Am I the person who's going to be hit next?
Let me see if we can answer any of these questions. Do you have any knowledge of the city owning any of the property over there?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we've actually met with Ms. Landers on several occasions. In fact, Mr. Shute offered to send code enforcement out at random hours because our code enforcement officers don't work in the middle of the night. And Ms. Landers claimed that there was car work happening in the middle of the night. We actually sent police officers out over a week period every night at random times in the middle of the night. We never saw any of the allegations. I think there's some concern about the property and them using a side lot, which is legal to park cars, abandoned or inoperable vehicles, but they're not in the right of way. They're not in the front yard. They're on the side yard. So from our perspective, what's happening is legal. To complicate things, the owner currently lost the home, and it's currently bank-owned and going through that process. So we've been working with the property owner to ensure it's maintained. But right now, that property meets the code, the municipal code.
So when you say it's bank-owned, the residents are still inside, but at this point, they're losing possession of the house.
Correct.
That may solve your problem. I mean,
it is a corner lot, and you have a municipal code regarding a corner lot because it affects two streets, Midway and Helix View Drive. It is a corner lot. Corner lot says you can't repair cars.
Okay, well, let's one step at a time. Well, Graham, let's just go ahead and address that too. Is this corner lot issue something that changes your feeling about what this is?
No, I think Ms. Landers is conflating what's there and what the code. So I think she's looked at a part of the code that is she's trying to make an application to something that doesn't exist. We've looked at that. She passed that on to us, which we appreciate, and she's read the code front to back, but we do not concur with her opinion.
So it doesn't sound like anything illegal is happening, but the good news for you is that the people that are living there probably won't be living there very much longer because they've lost the house. So in this real estate market, that's not going to stay unsold.
Can I leave these here?
Yeah, of course you can.
It's for you because you are an elected official. I do have one for Gary Kendricks and Bob McClellan. I have got maps, and I have also got the law. And as I say, I'd like to know whether the city owns the property.
Do you need to look into that, Graham, or can you answer that question?
No, we don't believe we own it. If you look at an aerial map, you can tell where the property line is. It perhaps is some residual leftover land from the Caltrans project. We don't think we own it. We will verify that. That was the first time we've heard that before, so we will verify. But looking at a map right now, it doesn't look like it's ours, but we'll verify.
If you'd report back to us, I'd appreciate that. And ma'am,
The city recently denied purchase of a homeowner who wanted to buy the end of the corner lot, and she was refused. Her house is right across the street from 133 Helix View Drive. These are from you, Mr. Kendricks, Bob McClellan, and for you.
Happy to look at it. Thank you for leaving. I think this problem is going to go away. So let's hope that this is the last you've had to deal with it.
We have two more speakers. Jim Sirigliano.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Council, Mayor, staff, excuse me. Just real quickly, Mr. Mitchell, by the way, I just got confirmation I'll be meeting with you on the 25th of April. Thank you for your accessibility about the rent mediation process. You know, since I've been coming to the city's council meetings, I feel that every time I come here, it's an examination of the conscience of the council and the staff here. Okay, whether it's about the homeless situation or, in my case, the mobile home parks and rent mediation and the unfairness of it all, which I haven't given up on, by the way. And just a fast recap about the last meeting. I was happy to see that Mr. Schutt's municipal code exemption was kind of shelved for right now. Also, the big one at the meeting was Councilman Goebel's about the rotation of the night shelters. I think it's an excellent idea. Only wish we had to wait 90 days to find out anything because, like a lot of things I consider injustices, they're happening right now, right this minute as we speak. And I believe that there is one church, it might be the OMG on Navajo Road. I believe they open their shelter at least once a month. I'm not certain about that, but I thought I heard that at one of the meetings. Also, we had some great presentations. I don't remember Ms. Snyder's first name from the East County Transitional Center. She gave a great presentation. I liked the way she stuck to her guns about bringing in expertise about the homeless people. And I hope this all comes to fruition down the road. Let's see, and also the Eastern Lights Prevention people that made a presentation. Great, and they worked with the younger people specifically. I thought that was a great meeting about the homeless situation. And I finally start to see some movement about this here. Of course, in my opinion, everything boils down to funding. And I'm not sure about where all the funding comes, especially for homeless things like this here, where or how much. You know, I have a little knowledge about it, but I feel that it's never enough, because I guess that's what it takes, more money, funding, to really attack this homeless situation specifically. And I guess that's about all I have to say right now, but if you have any questions, but it was nice to see movement on this here. And also, Mr. DiMaggio, I would like to meet with you, and I meet with Mr. Mitchell also, because I'd like to, I don't know how educated you are about the mobile home park situations and rent mediation and the laws, but a lot of it's unfair. And if you're welcome to come, if you're not too busy that day, I'd like to see you there also.
Thank you.
Questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
I think we're good, but thank you.
All right, thank you again.
Our last speaker is Lynn Powell Macklin.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, my name's Lynn. I hadn't planned on addressing you today. I mainly just came to celebrate the empty seat over there. But this is sort of additional information or in response to the first gentleman who spoke. I live in one of those apartment complexes on Bradley, and I've parked in his little 3-street area before, and each house on that street has a garage, and they're able to park in their driveway. And the apartment complex that I live in, when we moved in there in October, it's me and my 2 adult daughters. Between the 3 of us, we have 1 vehicle. And I didn't find out until we were signing the lease that there aren't enough parking spots for everybody in the apartment complex. If you want to pay an additional $100 and rent one of their garages, then you can have a spot immediately. But I was on a waiting list from October until last month to just get a parking spot, and even that I have to pay an additional $50 for. So that's the only area that we can park. Everything besides that is either apartments or commercial, and that's, I mean, you know, I'm sorry about his wife, but throughout November, December, and January, I had myself and both of my daughters, one's 18 and one's 21, walking home, you know, 3-4 blocks on Bradley Avenue at 12 and 12:30 at night. I've never seen anybody, any of the tenants I've never seen anybody causing any problems. I've never seen anybody urinating in a lawn or anything like that. Not that I'm saying it doesn't happen, but I parked there a lot until I got my spot. I've never seen those types of issues. And we only park there because we have no choice. And I'm not parking there anymore, but I know there are new people who move in and are faced with the same dilemma. Either increase your rent by $100 all of a sudden, or park somewhere else until you can get a spot. So that's all I wanted to add to the information.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No more cards, sir.
All right, there are no written communications and no public hearing on today's agenda. Item 10 is a report on the City Council vacancy. And staff, would you tell us about this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. As you know, about 2 weeks ago, the city was notified that Mr. Colascio intended to resign from the city council. Staff, upon receiving his written notification, filed that with the city clerk's office on March 27th. That's an important date because the city council has 60 days from the 27th to determine whether it wishes to call a special election or to make an appointment. If the council fails to make an appointment in that period of time, a special election would automatically be called, and it would be required to be held within 114 days from that, which is about mid-August. Based on the cost of a special election, staff highly recommends against moving in this direction and recommends that the council consider appointing a position to fill the vacancy for the period of through November 2020. And as you recall, this position would be an at-large position, would not represent the district from which Mr. Kalasha resided. The staff report includes sort of an outline of how the appointment process in our mind would go. There would be an application, and there's a draft application with the staff report. The staff report proposes that applications would be due on April 17th, which is a Thursday, and then or Wednesday, and then we had proposed considering applications that the City Council consider applications on April 23rd at the 7:00 p.m. meeting. If this is the direction that the council would like to go, staff's looking for some feedback so we can move forward with the process. First, specifically, we want to know about the application. The draft application that's included has a cover sheet that has some pertinent information, has some basic information about the responsibilities of a council member. It also includes a second page that has them respond to some questions about their background and about their education, about their employment. And then on the third page, there are 3 questions just to prompt your creative thinking that you may want to include as a supplemental questionnaire. Staff would actually recommend you probably narrow that down to 1 or 2 questions. 3 is probably a lot, but we provided those for some deliberation by the City Council. In addition to some feedback on the application, staff's looking for just confirmation of when you want to have a deadline for the applications, and what would drive that would be when you decide on making the appointment. And then finally, staff would recommend that the council have at least some preliminary discussion about how you see the process moving forward. And maybe tonight isn't the right night to do that because we don't know how many applications are going to be presented to the council. And if there's 6 applications, for example, you may treat that differently versus 50 applications. So maybe it's premature, but I think there's some value in at least talking about it as a council, as a body, to determine how you want to move forward depending on how many applications you receive. So staff's here to answer any questions, but specifically to take feedback on which direction the council would like to pursue.
All right. First off, council, do you have any questions? No. Angela, do you have any speaker cards on this?
Yes, sir, we do. We have 5 speakers. The first one is Bonnie Price.
Hey, Bonnie, welcome.
Hello. I'm here to speak in favor of democracy. I think that even though it's costly, it's worthwhile. The idea of appointing someone who is part of the Planning Commission is what you have usually done when you're making appointments. And I can't recall whether both the mayor and the council member Kendrick were on the Planning Commission prior to being either appointed or elected. But, you know, that breeds a kind of groupthink and cronyism that should be avoided. I think Councilman Goebel was not a member of the Planning Commission, and he's brought some very good ideas and thoughts to the council and made good contributions to considerations that the council has taken. I think that even though it's, $400,000 to have a special election, this is money well spent to get some new people beyond the Planning Commission who are part of the group who sit up on the dais now. And I would urge you to consider not appointing, but to actually have a special election. Thank you.
Thank you.
Estela de los Rios.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi there. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm here today. I wear many hats. I'm the chair of the Welcome Newcomer Network, which is 50 organizations plus in our community. I'm also a member of the East County Justice Coalition, but I'm here as a resident of El Cajon for 45 years. And I believe wholeheartedly we should have a special election. due to the process being open, because I do not believe in appointees. I do know that there has been conversation already about appointees. I believe that it's only democratic to have an open process, transparency, and to appoint someone that is not only just qualified, but dedicated to serve the city of El Cajon. There's a lot of people that are qualified. Thank you, Graham Mitchell, for explaining that if we have 6 or 15 or 50, you're going to make a decision. I also would like to know who's going to be on that decision-making process. If you get those applications, I want to ensure that it is a fair process and that the applications are fairly read and evaluated, and it's just not an appointee. So thank you for doing a great job, and I hope that you do what's best for the best interest, especially because of what's happened in the past with the whole Mr. Colascio and the whole process. We want to ensure that we can trust who's going to fill that vacancy. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
George Ibarra.
Hi, George. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, staff. I'm George Ibarra. I'm a board member of the East County Justice Coalition. We are comprised of over 14 different agencies and groups in East County and throughout the San Diego County as well. I would like to see due process as far as an election, a special election, not an appointment. This is a democracy after all, and we need to stand by the democracy. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 gives us that right and that liberty. I'd hate to know that the continued title for the city council and mayor is a good old boys club, and that's what you're known as out in the community. Failure to do so is going to be the same thing that we're doing in Washington right now. It's going to be a turnstile for appointees. We don't want that. We don't want appointments. We don't want appointments. We want to see a special election. It's going to cost us more not to elect the right person to appoint the wrong person. You did that with Star Bales. We had functions where she came to and she wouldn't even speak Arabic to a 90% audience. That's not something we're going to stand for. I don't know if you're aware of the demographics of El Cajon now. 2020 will tell the difference, will tell that in the census. And I strongly urge you for us to go forward with a special election because, again, it's going to cost us more not to elect the right person than to elect the wrong person. 2020 will tell. We're already mobilizing our citizenship efforts as well as our registration efforts. And 2020 is going to tell the difference whether you all sit in the chairs you're sitting now or you're replaced by someone who's going to do the job to represent the constituency of El Cajon. I'm a proud citizen of El Cajon. I want to remain that, and I'm sure you want the same equality for all folks that live here in El Cajon. So let's get off our duffs, do the right thing, and elect. Special election, not appointment. Thank you.
Ingrid Lopez.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone present here. My name is Ingrid Lopez, and I am also a member of the Welcome Newcomers Network and the East County Justice Coalition. And regarding to the agenda under admin report number 10, the City Council vacancy, I do encourage, as a citizen of El Cajon and as a voter, I'm kind of nervous, to have also a special election, and I think that's fair, and that's it's a fair process, right? It's not just like going to the Olympics and say, here, you get the medal. No, it's about racing and about who's qualified for the job. So I'm just for it to have a special election, even though if it costs us more, but at least we're going to have the right person for the job. That's it.
Thanks.
Our last speaker is Robert Clark.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Clark, and I would like to emphasize the point that if you have a special election by mail ballot only, the cost goes down dramatically. It's not going to be $400,000. And I would hope that someone at the city will look into that and determine what would the cost be if it's by mail ballot only. And I would certainly agree with those that say that we have this good old boys club where cronies appoint other cronies, and we ought to get away from that. And so if we have a special election by mail ballot only, that's not going to cost all that much. Thank you.
No more cards, sir.
Okay. All right, discussion amongst council. You want to start? Gary?
Well, $400,000 to $600,000 is a lot of money for a city this size. And last time when we appointed, we had about 20 applicants, a lot of really well-qualified people. And the law allows us to do that. And that's what I would like to do.
Steve?
$400,000 to $600,000 is a lot of money for a special election for a seat that has no more than a year and a half left on it. And to those that would say, well, an appointee would have a political advantage going into election, I would say that's not true either. Because I joined a field of 10 candidates in the 2016 election, and people gave me more votes than they gave the appointed city council incumbent at that time. So because you're appointed does not give you a political advantage in retaining your seat. I agree with the comments that the applications should be fairly read and evaluated. To that end, I think a week's time is too short. I don't think we have any urgency. I would recommend that we extend the application period to April 26th. I think it's 2 weeks from Friday. That would give us 2.5 weeks to receive applications and would allow the media to perhaps publish the names of those who have applied for council to let people in the community know this is who wants to represent you. That would give us 2.5 weeks for anybody to respond or be present. So I think an extended period, the next council meeting is 5 weeks from, well, 2 council meetings, are the 23rd and then May 14th, I think it is. Am I correct in that? The first council meeting in May is May 14th?
Correct.
Which will be 5 weeks from today. So let's take a little more time. We don't need to rush this. That would be good for the community to feel like they have a chance to weigh in, and people who might be on vacation or business trips have plenty of time to apply. We had 2 new faces here in the 2016 election, so I don't know that I agree that the good old boys club still exists. We had fresh faces, and we have fresh opinions, and I think this gives a chance for us to fill a seat for a year and a half and save the people of El Cajon $400,000 to $600,000.
Okay. I've been on the council now since 2008. We've had several, interestingly enough, we've had several times they have to make this decision. I don't think we've had a bad outcome significantly because of appointments. I'm comfortable with appointments. I don't want to spend money that we can spend on police and fire and roads and everything else that we don't have to spend. I got to tell you, I take issue with the concept of the good old boy network. I assume that that's geared towards the fact that the El Cajon has generally been fairly conservative in their political thought. But you live in California. Everything is run by the Democrats in California. Everything is run by the liberals. There are only a couple of cities where there are even any conservatives left. So I find it kind of a farce to say that it's a good old boys network. Anyway, having said that, my understanding is we have quite a few people already expressing interest, right? How many?
I'll have the city clerk correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 12 to 15 people have at least inquired about the process at the city clerk's office.
So, they're going to have a lot of people to choose from, 15 people. I want to get this over with. Frankly, we've been in kind of a nightmare in El Cajon for the past 2 years, constantly in the newspaper, constantly on TV, constantly at the center of controversy because of the wild antics of the last council member. I want this nightmare to be over. I'd like to put out the application process. We've already got 15 people who are already interested, and make this decision in 2 weeks and be done with it, and people can prepare for the next election, which is, as you pointed out, the primary is only a year from this month. So it's going to happen fast. So that would be my suggestion, to put it up for appointment and do it in 2 weeks. I guess you're the tiebreaker, Gary.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to get this done. In fact, I see several people out here right now, I'm sure, that are going to apply, and I encourage you to do so.
All right. Well, then I'll make that a motion then. Do I need to restate the motion?
I think if your motion is to go to appointment process, it's understood.
Yeah, my motion would be to go to an appointment process and have that process conclude at the next council meeting.
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Please vote. Okay.
Mayor, that fails. You require we would require all three of you to vote in affirmative on any motion today. We only have three members available today.
Okay. Well, then we have to find a compromise, gentlemen. You're adamant about this, huh, Steve?
I think I'm thinking about the people's point of view. For instance, if you're traveling on business, you only have 1 week to, maybe you don't even get a chance. If you are on vacation, you don't even get a chance. I think it would be nice for the media to get out the news that we're taking applications, and then people who might not be aware of this meeting would find out about it through social media, the city's resources, and we invite a bigger pool. A bigger pool is a better pool. I don't think we have a rush. So on this particular issue, I would have to stand firm.
If I could just comment, it's fine. I mean, if that's the end, I can live with that. I think this thing is going to be a circus. It usually is a circus. I'm tired of circuses, but if we're all going to go to the circus, let's go to the circus. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'm okay with Councilman Goebel's suggestion. It does cast a wider net to get qualified people.
Sure.
And if we have to stay here until midnight, so be it. And that's, we want to get a good person in here and ask a lot of questions. I'm looking for someone that's, kind and understanding and cares about this city. And I think it's important that we get that.
Absolutely. Steve?
This is proof that this is not the good old boys network. Can we understand that? This is how we negotiate transparently in front of the people of El Cajon.
Well, I'm going to restate my motion that we move towards an appointment, but we finish that appointment by making a decision 2 council meetings from now, which would be, I'm not sure what date that is.
May 14th.
May 14th. That's my motion.
And just a comment, this is how it's supposed to be, how everybody gets along. We have disagreements, we work it out, we compromise, we don't hit anybody over the head with a baseball bat. So this is the way government's supposed to work.
Anybody got a second? All right, move to seconded. Please vote. There we go.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I don't think you need a vote on this, but just to ensure that staff understood what Mr. Goebel said, so the deadline for the applications would be April 26th, which is a Friday. Is the council okay with that general direction?
I am. Is everybody else?
Is City Hall closed that day?
We're open, and I'd recommend, because we close at 5, I'd recommend applications be due at 4:30 in case people come in at the last minute. So
sounds good.
If council is okay with that.
Great. It works for us. Gary.
Now, do we need to discuss something about maybe before the meeting where we appoint we appoint at the 7 o'clock meeting, because I think everybody can make it there, just like we do with public hearings, and then at the 3 o'clock meeting we could discuss exactly the procedure. Is that something we can do?
Mr. Kendrick, I think that's a good idea. I think because we don't know how many applications we're going to get, it would be nice at the 7 o'clock meeting time that you can just launch into interviewing or launch into what process you're going to take. So I'd recommend at the 3 o'clock meeting on the 7th or the 14th that the council have an agenda item that would discuss how you plan on moving forward with that process. So you can kind of get that hammered out and then move forward at 7 o'clock with the protocol. And in fact, what we could do is invite the candidates to show up 15 minutes early before the council meeting, and staff can let everybody know what the process is going to be. So there's some understanding amongst all the candidates.
You know what? And Steve mentioned people traveling and stuff. I'd be comfortable with allowing somebody to submit a video interview if they couldn't make it that day. Are you comfortable with that? Is that okay? Can we add that? If for some reason somebody's unable to make, I mean, I would hope they could make it, but if there's extenuating circumstances, I think they should have the chance.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Thanks.
In terms of the application, is the council okay with what you see? Do you want to hone these questions down a little bit or expand?
I'm comfortable with what you've provided. I think everybody else is. So, once again, Graham, you did a great job, and we don't have to make any changes.
It wasn't me. It was amazing staff.
The amazing staff were good. All right. We're done with that then? Thanks, everybody. All right, moving on. Item number 11 is a report to retain consultant services to examine development impact fees. And staff, would you please tell us about this?
Mayor and Council, the report will be given by Ryan Villegas, our management analyst, and we'll also be hearing from Dirk Epperson, Public Works Director.
Oh, hi, welcome. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Great to be back. All right, there we go. Hi, staff. My name is Ryan Villegas. I'm an analyst now with the City Manager's Office as well as HR. Today, Mr. Epperson and I are here to talk about development impact fees and the future of development with the city. So as you know, the City of El Cajon currently does not have development impact fees and currently relies on the general fund to offset or mitigate the impacts of development. These impacts can come from additional traffic on surrounding city streets around new development, come from additional connections to underground sewer lines, or it can come from additional pressure on police and fire personnel to deliver safety services to more people. So the purpose of the presentation today is to address this current practice of the city, and then also to provide alternatives, as well as seek direction from you, Council, on how staff should proceed. So first, the first concern is the half-cent sales tax measure, Proposition J, which was enacted in 2009. It's set to expire in 2029, and so while this is still 10 years away, the city is currently in a strategic position to be able to forecast how to responsibly budget for future developments that come into the city. And then also, the cost of doing business continues to rise. And so each year, the cost of staffing and materials to enhance or to improve sewers or parks continues to use more of the general fund. And so this could end up leading to future budget shortages in the general fund to account for these. And then so, of course, this does provide a concern for long-term impact of development. So some options going forward. One would be to do nothing, to continue this practice of using the general fund, but it does create an unsustainable reliance on the general fund. Two would be to ask voters for a new tax, one that would extend the Proposition J funds beyond the 2029 expiration. This does, however, potentially place increased taxes burdens, an undue burden on citizens who may not have any connection with the development. And then the third would be to consider enacting development impact fees. These would establish a specific funding source where that the monies are dedicated to offsetting or mitigating these impacts of development. So currently, around the county, 15 cities in San Diego County do assess some form of development impact fees, and then around the state too as well. The vast majority of the cities do use development impact fees, and they're charged to developers, so that's the difference too as well. So the developers who are coming in and adding in retail or commercial sites or new housing are charged these fees, and so it's not the citizens, the general citizens of El Cajon. And then some examples here we have, there's park impact fees, traffic, police, fire, and then some others too as well. And then Mr. Epperson will actually continue and discuss more on development impact fees.
Thanks. Nice job.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, it is my pleasure to speak with you today about these development impact fees. Just to be clear, we're not going after another source of revenue just for the sake of going after another source of money. This is something to study, to look at the impacts of what's occurring in our city. We have lots of development going on, but we want to look at the potential here to offset and mitigate the impacts of those things. As the Director of Public Works, it is our department's responsibility to maintain the infrastructure within the city. And we do that through many means. Creative financing, look at different ways of funding these things. And as our finance director last month gave us an amazing report on the status of our finances, it was very clear that there is some funding deficits there as continued liability obligations go up. And so he also reported that we have not used general funding for the CIP program, which stands for Capital Improvement Program. And so our CIP program has been funded as of late solely from grants and loans and other programs that or other funds that have given us the ability to continue this forward, which has been great on our general fund. But how long can this be sustained? Now, development impact fees, it's not a magic wand. It's not going to solve all the problems. But what we're here before you today is asking for guidance and direction in order to go out and seek help, seek guidance from outside sources who know these very well. And we're looking for direction in order to continue with that. So we would go out and get a consultant to help us study this, to see if there are impacts which would help us to offset and mitigate these impacts by developers. We would look to see the mechanism, the vehicles necessary in order to implement that, and how much potentially that could bring in, and will it offset the necessary impacts to our community. And so as your representative for the Public Works Department and for the city that maintains infrastructure, we would like to receive that direction from you today to go ahead and move forward to study development impact fees and in order to find the beneficial impacts for our infrastructure and our budget. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Nice report. Angela, are there any speaker cards on this item?
Sir, not for this item, but I was just, and card was just submitted for public comment, so perhaps you can consider that after this item.
Certainly, yeah. Just a couple of questions. Staff, I assume that any kind of a consultant we would bring in would also be able to tell us the negative impacts of building impact fees, how much it might cost us in regards to stopping people from coming in and wanting to build houses here or wanting to build other kinds of... it will be a comprehensive report that looks at both sides of that?
That's correct. That's the intention.
Okay. Well, good. I appreciate it. Any questions, Council?
Well, I think it's important to point out that any development impact fees are ultimately paid for by tenants and homeowners. So I'd like to see a CPI, look at the California Consumer Price Index, and maybe have some sort of cap on it and see how we compare to other cities and how that will eventually affect our citizens that decide to move here, whether they're renters or homeowners.
I think we're the only city in the region that has no development impact fees. Is that correct?
That's correct. As Mr. Villegas pointed out in his presentation, the vast majority of cities in the state of California have development impact fees. We are the only city in the region that does not. And to Mr. Kendrick's point, the comprehensive nature of the report that we seek to ultimately bring back to you via consultant would actually look at the capital improvement needs of the city over the next 10 or plus years, and that is going to dictate actually what the fee would be, theoretically, so that the council would have an idea about what type of fees we're looking at and how much those fees would be.
Do you have a sense how much the consultant would cost?
Not yet. Not yet.
All right. So, gentlemen, any thoughts? Motions?
Thoughts? We want the fees to be low in El Cajon because we want people to come build here. If the fees are too high versus coastal communities, then they say, what's the advantage of building in El Cajon versus a coastal community? So we want them to be lower in El Cajon to attract people. But can you save your way to prosperity? Can you make the fees so low that you actually hurt yourself? In other words, are you creating deferred maintenance? Are you having the public pay for the impact related to development? If I put 134 new homes in an area and it requires some kind of sewer connection upgrade or some other kind of connection to that particular project, is it fair for the public to pay for that instead of ultimately the residents of that project? I think it is appropriate as long as we make sure in our direction to the consultants, these impact fees should really have a connection to that project. The public, I think, has a perception, rightly so, that these have become slush funds for improvements to other parts of the community. And so we don't want to create that perception. We want the fees to be fair, equitable, and that would be the advice that I would give.
And I would just add to Mr. Goebel's point that development impact fees were authorized many years, almost coming up on 50 years now, for development impact fees in California. And since that time, there have been progressively a number of laws that have tightened that up. Most notably, there needs to be a nexus between the capital improvement projects that the fees are supposed to fund and the completion of that project. So that will be all part of the consultant's report, and we will absolutely give that direction to the consultant.
I'm certainly more interested in development impact fees than I am in higher taxes. I mean, MTS wants to raise the tax. San Diego will eventually come and ask for another half-cent sales tax. At some point, people can't pay all that needs to be paid. So I want to be very careful about not moving into an area where we have to do new taxes. And if this is what we have to consider in order to do that, I'm willing to consider it at least. So I'd like to make a motion that we at least direct staff to go through the process of outlining getting a consultant and telling us what we need to do to consider this properly.
Second.
Move in second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Okay. It's been really heavy today. I see a bunch of young people out there. Are you guys from a local high school, or are you just bored on a Tuesday afternoon and you want to come into a council meeting? You're from where? El Cajon High School?
No, I went to Monte Vista. So Spring Valley, one city over. I'm homeless and just kind of wanted to see
See how it works? Good. Well, we're glad you're here. Welcome. All right, we're almost done, folks. Let's just go ahead and finish this up.
Mayor, with your permission, may I call the public comment card?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, let's do another public comment. So go ahead.
Thank you. Michelle?
Hi, how you doing? Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. As a member of the El Cajon Community Cleanup Group, I'm not here on behalf of them, but just as a concerned citizen and a member of that group. I'd like to discuss the opportunity to maybe place no dumping signs in various alleyways throughout El Cajon. I see on various social media sites, curb alert, and somebody dumps 4 couches out in an alleyway behind Wendy's, or they're dumping their refrigerator that they don't need on the side. And if we do something like that, can we possibly put like a limit? So you have to have a permit to unload your trailer in front of your house. You've got a certain amount of time. And so I'd like to see something where if you've got a curb alert, great, but it can only be out there like maybe 3 days. Because otherwise we're driving down streets of El Cajon and you see couches here. I stopped one man who was dumping a love seat around the corner from my house, and I took a picture of his license plate and I showed it to him and I said, get back out, get that couch, put it back in your van and take it to the dump or take it to waste management. Don't leave it here or I will report you. Now, I don't mean to be a grouchy old lady about it, but it's not right for people to dump their furniture on any sidewalk that they feel, which is not in their neighborhood. So I'd like to see if that's possible, since we're going to be printing up signs anyway, according to the agenda that I read earlier.
Well, first off, you should be careful out there. People sometimes aren't very nice in those situations. But
he was pretty cool about it. He was like, okay. I kind of scared him.
The irony is that you can always call Waste Management and they'll come and pick these things up for you anyway. So everybody thinks it's going to be really expensive, and it turns out, I think there's 2 a year. Yeah, you can call twice a year to have Waste Management come and get large items. So.
And I appreciate that, and I understand that. However, I think that there are a lot of people who live on the back side of the alleyway behind Wendy's on Broadway and Mollison. They're not going to pay attention to notices coming from the city saying, oh, Waste Management will take your furniture. Oh, these guys like to dump trash. And Mr. Goebel and my husband and I, we've been back there several times, and I think that that's something that maybe we can look into. I don't know. There's just got to be some way to keep the trash off the street that's just being dumped there.
That's Steve.
Well, good news.
What?
The city has, Grandma, is this something I can talk about? The city has contracted with ECTLC. This was a recommendation from Mr. Kendrick a while back to extend its cleanup services beyond just the downtown El Cajon area. So throughout El Cajon now, ECTLC will be roving the streets looking for those stray love seats and those abandoned couches. And I think they're going to be doing this quite frequently so that we should see a much improved, cleaner city soon. It's a very efficient use of taxpayer funds, and I'm really excited to see this coming.
Perfect. If that will counteract the dumping and maybe we don't have to put up signs and spend that money, I'm all for it. Thank you for your time. Well, yes.
Oh, I wanted to thank you for coming in. Actually, my chiropractor is right there next to Wendy's, so I'm over there every couple of weeks. And I see those sofas, too, and it makes my blood boil. So I appreciate, your concern about that. And hopefully, with ECTLC people roving San Diego, picking up all that trash, is to make our city look a lot better. And it helps the people that are in that program. They're trying to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, so everybody wins on this one.
Absolutely. I think it's important to get people involved. If you're going to be staying at a facility like that, such as ECTLC, or the roving night shelters, if you get them involved and make them feel a part of the community rather than, here's a bed, here's some food, here's some clothes, be on your way, I think if you get them involved, it gives them a sense of pride.
Well, let's not forget that this contract with ECTLC is employing people who are temporarily homeless.
Perfect.
Work to do and a way to earn their way back into a better lifestyle.
Great. Any other questions or
No, thanks. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't want I appreciate Mr. Goebel bringing that up, but I didn't want the council to think that I was keeping the rest of you in the dark. We were actually waiting for the implementation date to start, and we're going to do a press release because I think it's a great example of another public-private partnership with a local nonprofit in our community to make our community a better place, and we certainly want to let our residents know that if they report things to us, we will get that to the cleanup crew, and we can actually expedite cleanup more than we are right now. Also wanted to report, kind of in relating to that, is we're working with Waste Management to actually do a free dump day where we're bringing it to the people. We're going to actually hold an event at Wells Park so people can line up and dump large items at Wells Park. And we'll have dumpsters there, and we'll be able to haul everything away so people can come to that area in their own neighborhood.
Thanks. Perfect. Okay, back on track then. There are no commissioner reports today. Item 12 is my report, and item 13 is a legislative report. I'm going to ask Vince DiMaggio to tell us about something that's happening.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. After the agenda came out to you with the normal legislative report, we received some additional information concerning AB 1356. This is proposed by Assembly Member Phil Ting, Democrat of San Francisco. It proposes to amend the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, AMA, which is otherwise known as Prop 64, and it would require, I want to emphasize that word, require cities to issue retail licenses for marijuana dispensaries. The caveat is that the city would have had to vote in its own precinct areas over 50% of the local electorate voting in favor of AMA. Now, we've done some, both the city manager and I have done some really quick review of the vote from AMA back in 2016, and it looks like that we would cross the 50% threshold that's set by this piece of legislation. So if the legislation makes it through and it requires a 2/3 vote of the legislature, the state of California, and assuming it does get that 2/3 and signed by Governor Newsom, the city of El Cajon would have to actually come up with a methodology for issuing retail marijuana dispensary licenses. So we're urging that you direct us to write a letter in opposition to this piece of legislation, which we will do immediately if you'd like us to do that, and we'll continue to monitor it as it develops.
Thanks, Vince. I personally would very much welcome a letter of opposition. I think this is just another example of Sacramento doing what they want to do without any regard to what the cities want or any regard to what they've promised before in past legislation. So I think we need to stand up against it. Any thoughts?
I agree. Actually, next to the homeless, that's the number 2 complaint that I get about the marijuana dispensaries especially from the businesses that are adjacent to them. They're just going crazy at the problems they cause.
A question you mentioned by precinct. So we're in 4 districts. Would it apply by district? Do you know?
It applies, the city limits taken together, all the precincts in a city limit taken together. If the total vote on the 2016 Prop 64 exceeded 50%, then that city is obligated to create a license process.
So it's within the city definition, not
Correct.
within the district. Okay.
Correct.
I agree. You know, the people voted on Prop 64 up and down the state. So the people made their wishes known, and it was approved. But part of that negotiation was each locale could set their own rules. And so now I'm concerned when somebody says, yeah, everybody voted on it, but we want to change that.
Yeah, I agree. So I'll make a motion then that we direct staff to write a letter of opposition.
Second.
Move to second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right. Councilmember Garrett Kennett, do you have anything to talk about your activities?
As reported.
Councilmember and Deputy Mayor Steve Goebel.
As reported.
All right, there are no joint council member reports today. There are no general information items on today's agenda, and there are no readings of first ordinances. Item 17 is a second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending Specific Plan 182. I will ask our city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there speaker cards for this item?
We have no card, sir.
Then would you please read the title?
Thank you. An ordinance amending Specific Plan Number 182 to allow for freestanding signs up to 20 feet high on qualifying development sites.
All right. Do we need a motion on this? All right. Make a motion accepting that.
Second.
Move to second, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right. Thank you. There are no closed sessions on today's agenda, and this brings us to the adjournment of the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, held this 9th day of April 2019, which is now adjourned until Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.